How do everybody? I'm just out for a walk at the moment, but I thought today, with the sort of bad news that we've been having lately, that I'd do a video really on giving some thoughts on what I think can start to get done to help try and resolve some of the problems that we're seeing, because it's all well and good, sitting around complaining or typing out strongly worded posts on the internet, but what does it actually achieve? Sorry, I was looking at all the litter around here. It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting, the amount of litter. But anyway, so but writing these letters and posts online, what do they actually achieve? Well, nothing really. They just vent your frustration. So I thought, at the very least, I can give some basic ideas on what I think can be done to try and maybe start dealing with the problems that we're seeing in society and where we can go. Now, the first thing I want to start with, and I did speak about this in some of my other videos, the most recent ones, was putting your money where your mouth is. Again, it's no good just complaining about things. And I've just watched the video release by Patriotic Alternative, and I'm neither confirming nor denying whether I do or don't support them. That's a moot point. But the fact is a lesson to be learned from that is in the video, which Steve Laws has shared as well, is by people in that community have financially supported that family, and I believe they've raised over £40,000. Now that's excellent, because it means that even though he's going to prison for potentially up to 2 years, his family and his life isn't going to be ruined. And that means that the campaigning for them at the very least can continue. But not only that, it also means as well that other people will be encouraged, because up until very recently, people to the right of politics have felt very isolated and very alone, and that has been by design from the institutions. They have tried to compartmentalise us all into making us all feel like we're just an individual and that we have absolutely no power. And it's part of the reason as well why I think Margaret Thatcher sold off the council houses, because by having a mortgage, people are then committed to having to go to work, so they can't go on strike, but also they're not going to start misbehaving, because if you go to prison you lose your home. And I believe that's been weaponised against us, and I believe, like with Sam Milley, I think the judge has done that partly to try and ruin his life, not just by sending out a message. So that is excellent. His family now is going to be able to keep living, hopefully at least a basic standard, a basically acceptable standard of living. So that's the first point, is start putting your money where your mouth is. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to mean actual funding. Now, in the case of like Sam Milley, that is literal funding, but it could be if you're a gifted person in a certain type of technological space, or you work in a certain industry where you're excellent at organising, and you get paid by advising businesses. Start advising the people that you support for free. Start giving your services for free. Give them your time, out of your spare time, that is. Don't let it financially ruin you, but you need to be part of the change. You don't need to, like I'm doing, I'm putting my face on the internet and talking about these things. You don't need to be doing that, but people definitely do need to start investing, at the very least, their time into supporting getting the country back. Another important point as well. I'll just pause this because there's a lot of traffic here. So anyway, traffic's calmed down now while I'm crossing the road. Another important point as well is not allowing people to bully you into saying what you believe to be true. If you allow people, so for example, if you're, I don't know, criticising mass immigration and somebody calls you a racist, don't start going, whoa, I'm not a racist, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether they actually believe you're a racist or not. They are just saying that to try and shut you up. That's all they are saying. It's a power word. It's like a magic. Think of it like in, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or something. It's a spell. They're trying to cast a spell on you. Don't allow them spells to have power. If you accusing you of something like, say, racism or bigotry or whatever, only has the power if you allow it to have power. So all you need to do with something like that is just turn around and just say, listen mate, it's not 1995 anymore, that word has no power, I don't care. Or you know, you say, I don't care what you think mate, you're my political enemy or you're my political opponent, I genuinely don't care what you think. You know, don't argue with them, don't get into a slinging match, don't try and justify how you're not. That's what they want you to do. They are getting you on the back foot and defending yourself. Just bat it away. I don't care. That's all you need to do with something like that, and then carry on talking about what you're talking about. Double down. Have courage. I'm looking down here, I'm walking past this stream. There's even a bloody trolley in there. There's no shopping centres anywhere near here. There's an actual trolley in the stream. It's absolutely disgusting. Winds me up. What else was I thinking about earlier? I'm just going to pause it while I have a think and try and remind myself again. Another point as well is organise. Get organised. Now I will go back to Patriotic Alternative again because they mentioned it in that video. Again, not because I either support them or because I don't support them, just it's a reference point. They talk about their memberships. I'm not saying to join that group, but join an organisation or form your own if there's enough of you where you live, and start attracting people. Because as we see with the power of the unions, and we see with the power of universities, which are organised groups of people themselves, by organising you have strength in numbers. And with that as well, stop with the egos. There's too many egos on the right of politics, you know, and I include myself in this. We are not the main character in a film, right? We can't, and I absolutely do not support the communists or the USSR, but it doesn't take a lot of people. And when the Soviet Revolution happened, it was only about 1,000 people. That's all it took. Now I'm not saying we should engage in a bloody and violent overthrowing of Parliament, far from it. And that's another point as well. People, stop talking about revolutions and violence. You're just gonna attract MI5 or MI6 and the police onto you. Like, stop being so stupid. Like, be smart. Use your brain. You know, we've got to work within the framework that is legally permissible, because all that'll happen is anything that you try and do will just get destroyed straight away, and you're giving ammunition to the media and the left to show the undecided, oh look at how violent these people are. Just stop it. Like, be smart. Think before you open that, you know. And also, oh wow, there's a deer here. Oh, there's a deer just run past me. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Face to face with a deer. Yeah, also you've got 2 of these and 1 of them. That means you should listen twice as much as you talk. I do include myself in that as well, by the way. You know, I often listening to people, usually online, but often listen to people far more intelligent than me, and try and learn from them, and try and then pass on that knowledge in a format that's easiest maybe for other people who aren't quite as engaged to understand themselves. Hi, are you okay? Yep. So again, that's another important part. But yeah, stop with the egos. You know, not everybody can be Lenin. You know, the majority of people are going to be part of the mob, and I use that term loosely. Obviously, with current situations that are happening here, I don't mean a violent mob. You know, but the overwhelming majority of us are going to be NPCs, and again, I include myself in that. But it doesn't matter. You just need to encourage more people. You know, it's what it's referred to in economics is micro and macro. Now your macro is like when you're talking about, say, I don't know, global trade, and your micro is when you're talking about, say, for example, individual transactions. Now somebody engaged in an individual transaction isn't really that big of a deal in an economy, but the entire economy is made up of individual transactions, so the accumulation of them all actually builds up to the macro transactions. And it's the same with politics. You might think that just by speaking to people in your circle and staying true to what you believe isn't doing much, but it actually is. Because and I'll share a video later as well. I'll link it below. It's a video that explains it better about how to start a movement, and it's basically this video, this guy dancing in a field, and it ends up with like thousands of people dancing around him. Within about 3 minutes. And the guy explaining it is I think he's a professor or something, you know, so he explains it far more succinctly than I can. And that's another thing as well. We've got access to the internet. You know, once upon a time, you used to have to be born into certain families and know the right people to know where to get information from. You know, we've literally got the entire world's collective knowledge at our fingertips. Use it to your advantage. To quote, I think it was Einstein. Now Einstein said, stupid people never learn. I believe this was Einstein. Stupid people never learn from the mistakes. Average people learn from the mistakes. And smart people learn from other people's mistakes. And I believe what he was saying with that was learn and go off what other people have done before that has worked, then build upon it. But not only that, when he says smart people, I don't think he necessarily means smart as in high IQ. I believe smart is somebody who is able to use wisdom, and wisdom and intelligence are not necessarily linked. You know, we've all met incredibly high IQ people who are amazing at a particular job, but they've got absolutely zero common sense. You know, they're not even aware enough to shut a door behind themselves when they walk into a house. They're that thick. You know, they're that intelligent, they're thick, as much of an oxymoron that is. You know, so being smart, like I say, I don't think is necessarily being high IQ. You know, it's being able to accurately and adequately apply knowledge that you've learned into a productive manner to achieve your goals, and that's something that you need to be aiming for. So learn wisdom, and wisdom you can't learn. Well, you don't learn wisdom, you earn wisdom, unfortunately. You know, and that's part of the problem as well with people who go to university for so long. They spend so much time learning, they don't earn any knowledge, and it's different. So I'm revving now. You get the point that I'm trying to achieve with that anyway. Go online, learn off successful people. You know, I've got 4 kids. Now, if I wanted my son to be a footballer, if he really got into playing football and he wanted to be amazing at football, I wouldn't teach him to play football because I can't play football. I haven't got a clue. I wouldn't take him down the Sunday League and show him Fat Baz. Oh, play like Fat Baz. No, you show him Premier League football, the people who are the best in the world, and say, that's how you play real football. You learn off the best. Look at the most successful and emulate what they're doing until you can adapt it to work for yourself. And that's something else that we need to do. Which is why I say we need to start looking at things like the unions and the tactics that they engage in and adapting them for ourselves. I'm just going to pause the video again and have a bit more of a think. Right. And to move on from that as well, another point that is worth, I think, looking into is learning a concept called friend-enemy distinction. And again, this is what the left do exceptionally well. Now we see when somebody might say something politically, even just reasonable, you know, just slightly to right, you'll get a massive pile-on of people from the left, and it can seem like it's being organised, and maybe to a certain degree it might be, but I don't think a lot of it is. I think what it is people on the left are just so, and it's probably down to conditioning from going to university and things like that. They're just so adept at jumping onto something when they see certain key phrases and certain key topics being spoken about. Multiples of them will just jump into it, and I'm sure everybody's experienced it at one point or another, where you're on your own and you got like 10 or 15 people all bombarding you with messages. I mean, if that does happen to you, the best thing to do is just focus on one of them, ignore the rest. Don't block them, because they win by that. It gives them a victory. Never ever block anybody, because they get the moral victory. That it's like a trophy for it's a scalp. Look at me, I've been blocked by this bigot. So never ever block anybody either. Yeah, focusing on one person, but people on the right need to learn how to do that, whether you agree with the person from the right or not. You know, that's another thing. I mean, again, I'll highlight another contentious individual who's to the right of politics. That's Tommy Robinson. Whether I agree with him or not doesn't matter. I do agree with him on grooming gangs, but a point of his, which I see happening a lot with people on the right, is he supports Israel. No, that's his prerogative. But you start seeing people say, oh, he's a Mossad shill, or oh, he's getting paid by him, or oh my God, I can't support him anymore because I can't stand Israel, or whatever it is, right? Stop it. Just stop it, because all that's doing is doing the left's work for him. Stop achieving the communist goals by engaging in stupid games like that. And again, that's about getting rid of your ego. You can have those debates and those discussions in privacy, where our political opponents can't see them, right? And by the way, to be clear, I don't support Israel and I don't support Palestine. I support neither side. We've got enough problems happening in our own countries to have to deal with what's going on over there, you know, so I'm completely neutral on it. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to disregard what other people are saying simply because I disagree with them. All I'm going to do is go, yeah, that's their choice. All you do with something like that is you just say, yeah, I disagree with what that person's saying right there, with that point, but you know what, I'm not interested in that. Let's talk about the grooming gangs in the case of Tommy Robinson. I fully agree with him on that, and this is what he's been saying, and this is why it's important to discuss those things. move on like that. You know, I'm a massive advocate for gun ownership, for self-defence. A lot of people think that's absolutely disgusting and repugnant, and people agree with me on most things in politics. They think I'm crazy for it. But you know what? The people I know in my own personal life would never disagree with me in public, in front of people on that. It's conversations that we have in private. You've got to show unity. And this is the same in all parts of your life. You know, it's like, if you live with if you live with your partner and you've got kids, don't argue over the disciplining of the kids in front of the kids. Because all the kids are doing there is playing divide and conquer with you. And it's the same in life. It's the same, these things all scale up. Everything scales. It's what's called fractal in mathematics, where it's the same at all different levels. But it's just the scale of it, the size of it that changes. You know, it's like like with migration as well. You know, you treat your country like you treat your house. Yeah, you invite guests in, but when they become untenable, you kick them out, and you lock your door, not because you hate people outside, but because you love those inside. Well, the same with your borders. You know, that's the thing with it's fractal. You know, and stop. Another one as well. Stop being so aggressive online. Now, I'm not saying to all and sundry. Obviously, to the absolute out and out oikophobic, and for those who don't know what oikophobic means, that's people who hate the familiar, hate home, and have a love for the outside and the opposite and the other. You know, obviously when you get the absolute oikophobe saying things like there's no such thing as Indigenous Britain, absolutely attack them, because that is useless. But what I'm on about is just in general statements. The average non-political person will just see that as you being a rabid nutter. Doesn't matter how true and correct you are, they'll see you as like some frothing at the mouth schizophrenic going crazy. And not only that, but it also, again, it gives ammunition to our political opponents. Look at these rabid nutters. Doesn't matter how truthful and honest you are. You know, most people don't care about facts and logic. Most people are driven by emotions. You know, there's an interesting scientific experiment. It's repeatable, but they're not allowed to do it anymore for ethics. And it's to do with how obedient people are to authority. The basic premise was there was a screen with two people, one sat on each side of the screen, and one person on one side of the screen is strapped to electrical devices, and the person on the other side has a button. And the test was that the person strapped up gets asked questions by a doctor in a lab coat, and when they get it wrong, the second person has to press a button and they electrocute them. And every time they press the button, they have to turn it up a certain amount, so the volts and the current and the amps and everything increases. And it was about trying to teach people to learn using negative reinforcement. But the actual real test was on the person pressing the button. The person being electrocuted wasn't actually being electrocuted. It was an actor. And the role of the doctor, they weren't a real doctor. Their role was just to keep encouraging the button presser to keep pressing the button every time the question got asked wrong. And there were people going as far as killing. In their mind, they believed they were genuinely killing the person who was strapped up. And some people, even after they believed that the subject was dead, the person in the lab coat would keep saying, press the button, press the button. They keep pressing the button, and they'd be crying, going, but they're dead, they're dead, they're dead. You know, so you've got to, I believe it's 80% of people would engage in that sort of behaviour for what you would call an unacceptable amount of time. And I believe up to about 20% of people would kill the subject. So this is what you need to understand. Most people don't think. They are incapable of thinking properly for themselves. At least 20% of people are incapable of thinking at all for themselves. You know, about 60% of people will only change what they are believing when put under enough duress and pressure. And it's that group of people in the middle that we need to attract. But we're not going to do it by just simply shoving a load of information in the faces. We're going to do it by encouraging and enticing them over. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And that's something that, again, that we need to start looking at is how to attract regular people. And one way of doing that is allowing our opponents to speak freely. Now I'll link a video below as well of an interview on GB News, and I can't remember her name, but she's one of the leaders of BLM, and she's horrible, an absolutely horrible human being. So condescending, so patronising, really talks down to everybody. She's got that very I know everything, you know nothing, and I think a lot of it is racism as well. Now, I can't prove any of that, and that is all just my personal opinion, just to be very clear for legal reasons. But that is my honest held belief about this lady. And when she was on GB News, she's been on it more than once. Loads of people were saying, why are you letting her on? Why are you putting her on the telly? This is terrible. You know, you shouldn't be giving a platform to people like her. I fully disagree. It was Napoleon, I believe, who said, never interrupt your opponent when he's making mistakes. Believe you and me, when these grifters, when these anti-British lot, when these people who hate Western civilization open their mouths freely and in full confidence, they do more damage to themselves in 5 minutes with the general public than what we could ever achieve in 5 years using the best evidence and all of the facts and figures to our disposal. It's simply let them ruin their own reputations. Do not interrupt them. Encourage them. In fact, sit there and go, yes, keep talking. Let them say their pieces. Let them espouse their bile and their venom. And let them show the wider country and the wider population just how subverted and just how damaged our institutions have become because of these people. Just absolutely. And also another topic worth looking into as well is a book by the Chinese general from about 3,000-4,000 years ago called Sun Tzu. His book, The Art of War, definitely worth reading. Incredibly insightful information, and can be adapted to not just war but also to many other aspects of life, because a lot of what he speaks about is in Proverbs. And people might say, well, what's the point of Proverbs? You know, they don't actually have any literal meaning. And well, no, they're not scientific journals. They're not written in 100% accurate language, but humans don't think and speak like that. Humans speak and think in Proverbs. We speak using we tell stories to communicate. It's a deep part of our psychology that we can't escape from. You know what I mean? Like, for example, this topic that I'm talking about now, just the whole video. You might say, oh, we're walking down a well-beaten path. You know, everybody knows what that means. We're not literally, I mean, I am actually at the moment, but we're not in the concept of what I'm talking about, in the abstract, walking down a well-beaten path. But everybody knows that area of land somewhere where they live, that people all cut across, and it's got the path worn into it going across it. Everybody knows that, and we understand what is meant by that concept. You know, it's something that we all have gone over many times, and that is how we communicate as people. So Proverbs are incredibly important, and a great way for people to understand. So definitely read. There's some good videos as well online of Sun Tzu's work broken down and explaining it in good ways as well. And start applying those to the way you approach life. Another one as well that I see quite a lot of people saying is not to vote. What's the point in voting? Or, you know, if enough of us don't turn out, it'll send a message. It won't. I'm telling you that now for a fact. Where you live, let's say only 20% of people turn out, and let's just say Labour win that with 10. You know, they get 10% of they get 10% of the votes, or 50% of the turnout. You know, they with the other 50% of the turnout being split between the other parties, they aren't going to see that as being some sort of defeat. They will just go, yep, we won. We got the popular vote, even though only 10% of people in the whole constituency voted for us. That's all they'll see it as. So don't think that not voting is going to do anything, because all they care about is winning. It's like if you got into a fight with somebody, a fist fight, and then they just stood there and let you punch them in the face until you knocked them out. They can't then turn around and go, well, I won that fight because I let him knock me out. I didn't even put up a fight. It's like, no, you got knocked out and you let him knock you out. And it's the same with the whole voting thing. The whole you don't have a mandate isn't going to wash, because all the institutions, all the governmental organisations, all they'll see is that party has won a general election. They ain't going to care about voter turnout, I'm afraid. They'll just say, well, you should have turned out and voted. And then we're back to square one again. So go out and vote. Just vote as far in the direction that you think. It doesn't matter how small the party is. Vote for that party and encourage as many people as you can to vote with you, with that party. Absolute madness, in my opinion, not voting. Absolute madness. Now, do I think it's a surefire solution to the problem? Absolutely no, I don't. I think the problems are much deeper than just simply voting our way out of this. And I do think it's going to take much more radical but non-violent action. And with that, I do mean things like getting into the institutions. Now, like I say, I've got 4 kids. So what am I going to be doing? Well, I'm going to be encouraging my kids to get involved, you know, to try and get them into university, try and get them to do things like law degrees if I can. Try and get them into positions where they can actually influence society, and try and keep them, you know, this is what the left have done. You know, they're about 50 years ahead of us on this. You know, they've got into it like being the vice chancellors in the universities. They've got to be in the heads of the civil service. They've got to even be in the middle management. You know, they've flooded these places. We've got to take them back. You know, and we've got to start thinking longer term as well. And this is another big point. Too many people are just thinking to the next general election, oh, I want A, B, C, D, E, F, G all the way up to Z achieving. It's like, well, that's not going to realistically happen in one election cycle. You know, and look at our ancestors. When the Europeans during the before the mini ice age happened, during the European warm snap, about 600 years, there was great bounties of food being grown, and European populations absolutely exploded when that was happening. And because of that, because of how big the yields were due to the warm snap, the Europeans embarked upon great cathedral building projects. And you can see actually a lot of these cathedrals that were actually started at the end of it before the mini ice age came back in, because you can see where the cathedrals just suddenly stopped, where they're not finished. And it's because the crop yield started collapsing, and they just didn't have the spare manpower to do it. But some of those cathedrals that were getting built, they took over 100 years to build, and they knew that when they started building them. You know, the person who laid the first block down, who dug the first hole to build those cathedrals, knew with 100% certainty that they were not going to see that building being completed in their lifetime. They probably didn't even see the roof getting put on the cathedral, never mind seeing the structure finished. You know, but they still embarked upon that anyway, knowing that it was for future generations to benefit from. And that is also what we need to start doing. We need to get this big societal thinking back. Stop thinking about me, and what can I achieve now in the next 2 weeks. Nothing worth doing is easy and quick to do. We have really got to start getting back to big societal thinking again. Because otherwise we might as well just lie in the gutter, die, and allow Mohammed to take over the country. You know. I've also started rejecting a lot of history as well, and wording things in a special way. Like online, I'm trying to adapt language, memes, into a formal language. Now we all know what a meme is. It's an image which is designed to convey a large idea in the easiest to understand concept. And for example, you have the one where there's the dog in a hat sat drinking a cup of tea or coffee, and everything's on fire around him, and it says "this is fine." And a meme of that might be mass immigration written over the fire, and then over the dog it might say "the average British voter." You know, that's a really easy to understand concept of what the message it's trying to convey. Now I'm trying to do that with words. So for example, about 3 years ago, I started spamming out things like, whenever I see, say, grooming gang reports in videos and stuff, I just go in all the comments and just start putting really basic things like import the third world, get the third world. That's it. But I would just start spamming it everywhere, because that is really easy for people to understand. It requires no knowledge other than basic understanding of what's going wrong in our society, and it explains it all succinctly in just a couple of words. And again, that comes down to people understanding the world through emotions rather than through logic. So you've got to keep it basic in order to convey the messages in that manner for the average person, and that will do more than giving them reams and reams and reams of information which will just overwhelm them. Just little snippets. Again, whenever like seeing trouble in London, another one I started doing was putting down little phrases like so culturally enriching as an example, using the left's own words against them, because again it conveys a massive message through a sense of irony and comedy as well. People like comedy. I used to sometimes I'd sometimes expand upon it as well. I'd put isn't it so culturally enriching when the strength of diversity is being shoved in our faces? I guess it's all part and parcel of living in a city. And then in brackets afterwards I'd say, as said by Sadiq Khan, that's in reference to the part and parcel. He did actually literally say that about terrorist attacks. You know, so it's using meme magic. You know, Donald Trump got voted in on because of meme magic. It's unbelievable how much you can achieve just with little tiny snippets of information like that, just to convey huge ideas. And as I say, for people who aren't necessarily habitually engaged in politics or don't live most of their life on the internet, who just happen to see 10 minutes of the news a day, if that is brilliant for them. That is perfect to grab them people. And also, when you start putting these messages out everywhere, it does what's called normalization. And again, this is in that video that I'll share below, the guy dancing, and he explains it in that video. But a big part is that most people actually do, or a large number of people do actually want to get involved, but they're scared because they feel social pressure. Now I'm on the autistic spectrum, high functioning autism, so I'm absolutely immune to social pressure. It has zero impact on me, which is probably why I'm happy to film these videos and speak in the way I do. But a lot of people don't have that. Now don't get me wrong, it's a bit of a Damocles sword. It has its drawbacks as well. You know, everything's a trade-off. There's no such thing as a perfect solution to anything. but you know, you're playing to your strengths and trying to defend against your weaknesses. You know, so the majority of people aren't high functioning autistic like myself. So what has to be done is those people have to be encouraged across. And I'm not saying everybody who's doing what I'm doing, by the way, is autistic. Probably not. You know, it's a very, very small number of people who are. But you know, I mean, even for you people who are generally brave, and probably braver than me, because I'm just too bloody much of a crayon muncher really to realise what I'm doing is and the detriment to myself that it's probably going to do. But you know, to those people who do have the full awareness and who are autistic, a lot braver than me, by standing up and acting in a sane manner, you will attract more people. And the more people that get attracted, you know, that attracts even more people, and then more people. You know, and believe it or not, the most important people to attract is the first person that you do attract, or the first few people, because they're the ones who say this is okay, and they then attract the wider crowd. And another point I've had off people as well is that I've seen is, I know what to do now, like I'm doing, you know, like trying to express ideas and attract more people, but I don't know what to do after that. Don't worry about it. That's, you know, like when somebody like, I don't know, Elon Musk started his first companies, he didn't know how to run a global company, but you get more people in, and more people that come help you to build it even bigger, and they get more people, which helps build it even bigger, and it becomes exponential growth. So don't worry about, you don't know what to do further down the line. As more people get attracted and more competent and hopefully, I mean, if you're a person watching this and you're involved in high level work, it's people like you who will then grow these movements even bigger. You know, you're just, you know, it's just getting the people in to do these things. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, it's over half an hour now, this video. I've dragged on long enough, and I've probably rabbited on. I know it's not really been an interesting video, this, although I do think what I'm saying is important. I may not be explaining it in the best way either, and again, if anybody else is listening to this and can make use of what I'm saying, but you can refine what I'm saying and distill it down maybe into a more concise and easier to digest topic, please do. You know, and start encouraging people and giving people the tools to start building and taking our civilization back, because I think we are a bit of a precipice at the moment, and it's whether we fall forward or start turning around and walking back down the route that we know is the correct path. Anyway, if you found this interesting, insightful, useful, any of that good stuff, please do like, subscribe. Please put a comment below as well. I love reading people's comments, and I do always try to get back as quick as I can. If you do write a bit of a big comment to me, sometimes it might take me a day or two to get back to you, because I do like to, when people put a lot of points down or really in-depth things, I do like to give them a lot of thought. It may take me up to a week or two to get back to you on those, so don't feel like I'm ignoring you. I'm not. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Goodbye and have a nice afternoon.